Welcome to VMware Server Shrinking a Virtual Disk. A virtual disk that grows on demand grows automatically as files are added to the virtual machine. However, the virtual disk does not shrink as those same files are deleted. Take for example this virtual machine. Its C drive currently is only using about 2.46 gigs to store the actual data. However, lots of files have been added and then deleted from this virtual machine, so the virtual disk has had to grow over time. But now let's take a look at that same virtual disk from the perspective of the host operating system. I'm going to go down to the VM folder where the virtual machine is stored and look at the folder that contains the virtual disk. Notice that the folder that contains the virtual disk, the virtual machine is consuming about 8 gigs of space on the host operating system. We can use the shrink command to reclaim some of the space for the host operating system that the virtual machine is not using. To reclaim the space, we need to run the shrink utility from within the virtual machine. To access the shrink utility, double-click on the VMware Tools icon in the System tray and click the Shrink tab. Shrinking is a two-part process. The first step is Prepare to Shrink. That actually prepares the virtual disk for shrinking by deallocating free space on the disk. The next step is actually shrinking the disk. So in order to begin the process, go ahead and click Prepare to Shrink. Now that the free space has been deallocated, the next step is to shrink the virtual disk. To shrink the virtual disk, click Yes, and that will begin shrinking the actual virtual disk. Finally, when the shrink process completes, click OK, and click OK to close the VMware Tools dialog box. Now let's go take a look at our host hard disk and let's see how much space we got back. Once again, we're looking at the hard disk of the host operating system, and we're going to look at where the virtual machine is stored in the C:VM JT WinXP directory. And notice the size of our virtual disk now, which at one time was 8 gig in size, has now been shrunk down to about 2 gig in size. So shrink was able to reclaim almost about 6 gigs of space on the host operating system's file system.